to Starksville. Coach Lee's got his team playing. They play extremely hard. They're playing really well. As good a special teams group as I've seen this year. I mean, they're fantastic. And I know Alabama was really good last week, but this group is really, really good on special teams. Obviously, Will Rogers is a problem. He's a really good quarterback. Their offense, what they do, got a lot of talented receivers. Defensively, they're an attack, blitz a lot. It seemed to be working for them, but they play extremely, extremely hard and well coached. And there's a reason they're 4-1, ranked in the top 25. They've got a really good football team, but we're excited to go play them.
Coach, how do you guys get things turned around on defense? Obviously, a lot of struggles there in the fourth quarter against Alabama and an offense here in Mississippi State that can put up a lot of points.
What was the first part of that?
How do you get things turned around in such a short time?
Well, we've got to get some people. We got to get some guys back a little bit. We've been beat up, it seems to me, like pretty much all year. And we just have to continue to work on it. Man coverage has been a problem for us, especially if we don't get to the quarterback. It's been a problem for us, and we just have to continue to we have to be in position better. We certainly the explosive plays, we've got to limit them. We have to be comfortable with keeping them in front of us and hoping we can have a pass breakup or get a guy on the ground. Our tackling and our secondary woes has got to improve. We've got kids that'll fight back there and work at it. So they are a big challenge, though. Yeah.
Offense continued to battle. Had a few struggles down there in the red zone, but we got to ask the status of KJ Jefferson since he didn't go back in on Saturday.
Well, he had some mild symptoms, and those are things that our doctors look at, saying, each kid's a little bit different of how they react, and we've had guys back within 3 or 4 days. We've had guys out for 27 days. So he's kind of a wait and see, to be honest with you.
Having almost all your road games, here in a row in the same month, does that change the approach at all, or how difficult is that?
I think what changes your approach is the health of your team and basically who you're playing. I know last year, I think we had maybe 3 home games in a 5-game, 5 in a row. 3 of them were home, but yet we were on the road, all but one of them. So that kind of changed a little bit when we were 4 out of 5. Our practices changed a little bit. We might have went in spiders on a Monday instead of shells and things of that nature. But I think right now we're a team that we've got to go, continue on the fundamentals and things of that nature. So I think we're going to stay probably pretty much status quo with what we've done. Last week we went in spiders. I don't think we're going to do that this way. I think we'll go shells today, but I think we'll pretty much stay routine this week for this game.
And then I think your first win here was at Mississippi State in 2020, and obviously, limited crowd size then, but just what do you remember about that first win, and how will this year be different for you going in there again?
Well, I remember finding out we hadn't won a SEC game in a long time after the game. I remember because everybody was so excited, and things of that nature. And you're right, there wasn't hardly anybody there because of COVID. Remember the excitement of the locker room and all those things. But we played a good game. They had scored 44, I think, on LSU the week before, and played a really good game on defense and made enough plays on offense to score. I think it was 21, and it was enough to score. But it was certainly a good feeling, and my first game ball and all that kind of stuff. It was exciting.
You spoke about the double cloud coverage, but this is one of the teams that it kind of worked against. So I'm wondering, like, you got a mix in this game. What maybe you want?
Well,
you want to do?
I mean, to be honest with you, and I'm not contradicting, but we won 9 games last year doing it, so it worked. However, we also got exploited by some teams that could run the football and big, like Georgia, some of those guys and things of that nature. So certainly we'll look at that, this week. Played a lot of it last year as well. I'm sure they'll be ready for that if we choose to go there. But I still think that we have to be multiple, but certainly we have to understand we've got to keep people in front of us and get them on the ground, and we've got to get better at that. So zone coverage at times can certainly help you with that.
Just confirming, that means KJ's in concussion protocol.
I didn't say that. Anybody else?
If Cade Fortin, what was your evaluation of Cade's snaps the other night? And if he has to play, what strengths does he bring to you? What do you think?
We're very confident with him in practice. He's done really well in the 2-minute situations. He's a good quarterback, and he has experience. We also believe in Malik. If anything happened there, we still think we have 2 really good quarterbacks that they're certainly different, even though Cade can run a little bit as well. He would probably be looked at more as a passer and Malik more as a runner, but that's really not true. They both can do either.
Sam, you guys just played A&M, so you're obviously familiar with their personnel. What do you think of what Mississippi State was able to do to them? Beat them. I know they forced 4 turnovers and beat them pretty decisively.
That would be a big deal in the game. I mean, A&M goes down to the 5-yard line and fumbles, and they kick a field goal, and it goes back for a touchdown. And then their starting quarterback got hurt, and there's a lot of things that happen. All of those things happen because Mississippi State made them happen. I get that, but it was a tight game there, and basically on the field goal that was blocked back for a touchdown, kind of put the game out of hand. But they play so hard. This is a really good football team, and they play so hard, and obviously they can score points. But they're going to cause you problems on offense if you're not ready for all this movement and all the blitzing that they do and all this total blitz that they do. And they have players that can do it. You got really good football players, guys that have played. I love their linebacker group. I think they're really good. It starts with Johnson, but Watson and Wheat, they're all really good players, and they use them well. And they're really good at special teams. I mean, they have made a difference in a lot of games just on special teams alone. So they're playing, they're hot right now.
And Rodgers, he gets the ball out so quick. It's almost like a lot of their passes are almost like running plays, but
They are,
it's,
yeah.
73% completion rate, hard guy to sack, even though that's been a strength of y'all's. What do you think about just him as a quarterback and how fast he gets it out?
Well, now he's on year 3, of playing now, Bob, and you can see it, and the thing is, you really have to disguise in the secondary, because if you don't, I mean, and he knows exactly what you're doing, whether it's man or quarters or double cloud or whatever it may be, he can exploit you. I mean, he's really good, and they've got receivers that can as well. So there'll have to be decision made, obviously, on 3rd down and things of that nature, whether we're going to go after him or not. You can't just let him sit back there. So if we decide to go after him with 4, we've got to get there. If we decide to go after him with 3, we've got to get there. And they're good at tackle. Obviously they lost their first rounder last year at left tackle, but they're good at tackle and good on the offensive line. So we got to move him at some point. We got to hurry him at least. And I thought we did a pretty good job of that last year.
Coach, I know usually when there's an injury, you'd like the player to be able to return, have a day or so of practice. Can't remember what you generally like, but Does that apply for KJ? Is there a day you like to have him back at practice for him to be able to play this weekend?
Wednesday's always our day. They have to do something on Wednesday or we pretty much count them out for the game. Wednesday's that day.
And you mentioned that Fortin's been your number 2 quarterback for a few weeks now. What is Malik's role going forward? And does he maybe do more receiver, or how does that change for
Well,
him?
he's a quarterback. I mean, he's a quarterback as well. Certainly the plan for him to play wide receiver has not been even what I thought it would be. But the plan is for him to play quarterback.
Coach, I think that's back-to-back weeks now with the touchdown catch for Keytron Jackson. Just what have you seen in his development? And you mentioned kind of wanting more out of the passing game. How much of a key can he be in that improving?
Well, I didn't get the second part of that, but Keytron is one of the most improved guys on the team. I mean, he's always been a good player, but he seems to be coming into his own, catching hard passes, getting open more. He's always been a great blocker, a hard effort guy. But I think he's one of the most improved guys on our team. He's playing with confidence now. And, there's a little bit of that because he was starting in fall camp, and I think Matt beat him out, and he didn't, it was a big lesson learned there. He didn't go in the tank or anything like that. And now he's playing even better ball than what I thought he would at this point in time. And I think he's got a lot of upside. I'm sorry I didn't hear the second part.
Was he had an explosive play against Missouri State, also against A&M. I think you mentioned something about wanting more out of the passing game. How much of a key can he be in that?
Well, I hope he just keeps getting better and better and better. And a lot of times your passing game dictates a little bit about how you're running the ball and things of that nature, but it also, dictates to who you're playing, and if teams are able to man cover you because they've got really good corners like Alabama did, it makes it much more difficult. You can find a little more spaces in zone coverage. And certainly you can exploit corners that you feel like you're better at. I thought Alabama had really good corners. So therefore we weren't able to, and we weren't throwing and catching it. We weren't throwing it as well as what we had in the past either. But I think he's going to be a big part of that. And we have to air the ball out more than what we have, even though I think we're running it well, but we've got to open up our offense a little bit more.
You like a 11 a.m. road kick?
Yes. Yeah. I think anytime that you can go on the road and play in the morning, that would be at least for me, that would be the number one time that we'd want to play. Anytime I think it starts getting later than that, and then the tailgates get better and the people get louder. And so I like the early one, to be honest with you.
You think their fans adhere to the cowbell rule like they're supposed to?
I talked to some people that have played them, and they said it is louder than loud in pregame, and then that their fans have certainly abided, or whatever the word you want to use, by the rule. Once the center is approaching underneath this or quarterback underneath the center, then they can't do it anymore. And they said they didn't. So I think it's a penalty if they do. So.
Or a game on the line, I'm not so sure. A lot has been talked about with the offense. Every time you talk about Mississippi State, it's about offense, but defense is giving up 330 yards, 21 points a game. What do you see out of them defensively?
Well, you better win first down, because they're going to come at you now. I mean, this is one of the most moving defenses, blitzing defenses that I've seen in a while. And it works, so I think anytime that you play teams like that, you have to have some explosive plays. You have to, it has to be more than 7 yards and the guy got a shoestring tackle on you. You got to go 70, you got to go 65. You got to make some big plays, 30 on them, or they'll never get out of it, and I will say this, I think Coach Kennedy and the offensive line, I think they do about as good a job as I've seen with movement on the defensive line and linebackers. So we're certainly going to practice the heck out of it, but there's no fear in their defensive coordinator. I'll say that.
Ask you a cowbell question too. When you're on the headphones, I mean, do you hear them? Is the communication impacted between coaches on the phones and communication out to the field?
You know, I tried 2 weeks ago, a one headsetter, you know, and it's so much, when you put both of them on, you don't hear anything. You just hear the guys, you know, your communication with your coaches and all that. But when you take one off, you hear all of it. And I had it on there until we got ready to have the opening kickoff. And I said, no, I can't. So it muffles everything.
Oh, and the status of Warren and Slusher. What do you feel about those two?
You know, I think Slusher, I would think he's a little more beat up, a little worse than Warren. I think Warren, we'll see what he can do at practice today. Slush, I think that's going to be a wait and see. We'd probably know more on Wednesday, you know, about what his status will be, but that calf's jacked up a little bit.
You mentioned it a little, but when teams are coming at you, you know, max blitzes and things, what are the keys to defeating that? What do you have to do?
Well, I always thought, you know, when I was a line coach, I used to always think it was, you know, recognition of the quarterback and the O-line. And I still think that's a big part of it. But if you ever look at it, and your receivers are the ones that have to understand it, because you can't, total means they have one more than you do, no matter what. They have another guy and they're man covered. Now, if your back went out, you might could take a guy with him, but total means they have one more than you, and it's hot. It's automatic hot. It's only blitz really you can't pick up. And the wide receivers, if they're running, let's say they're running, you know, either a corner, or they're running a post, or they're running a comeback. Well, there's no time to get to the comeback part of it. So the wide receivers have to be aware that that's happening too. And then obviously you want to get as many people to the middle of the field as you can, because that's where it's vacant. And so I think all of them do, but I used to think it was just the line and the quarterback, but I think it's so important that the wide receivers understand it as well.
I know he's been dressed out the last couple of games. I don't think we've seen Jashad the last couple. Is he healthy?
I hope so. He hasn't been. We're going to find out a little bit more today. Take him through some Indy and see how far that goes, but he hasn't been, no.
And how is Malik handling all this, Hornsby, with, you know, getting replaced as the number 2 guy, and then not, as you said, getting as many reps at receivers you may have thought? How's he handling it?
Well, there's situations too now. I mean, we were behind. Fortin's kind of the guy that, you know, is what I would call the passing. You know, he's been in games. We were behind. There's a lot more that goes into it, more than just who we put into the game. But Malik's handling it fine. I visited with him today, and he's fine. He'll be fine.
You said last week that you'd like to see Rashad Dubinion get some more touches. I think he had the second most snaps of the running backs. What do you think of him against Alabama?
Well, I thought he ran as unfortunate. You know, we had the fumble, and he had a really nice run on that one, you know. But, you know, mistakes happen. We certainly don't want him to. He doesn't, more importantly, he doesn't want him to, but I think he's just growing. I think he's getting better and better. And he's a fine running back, and we trust him. We put him back in the game, you know, after that. And so we're going to try to continue to move him forward and carry the ball a little bit more, even this week.
I feel like everybody's bounced back mentally from the way the Texas A&M game loss, you know, happened. And then of course this game for next week, you feel like?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we were slow Saturday in the first half, we had a slow start, and you know, as a coach, that's your responsibility. And then of course we had a fast start in the third quarter, but we had a slow start. So all those things you think about, you know, Alabama is the number one team in the country, you know, so you're not, unless they get beat, they're going to be number one. So you're done with number one. So now we're going to play top 25s every week. You know what I mean? But that was a good football team. They're good, you know, and we were fortunate and came back within 5 there and had a chance to get the ball, you know, and have an opportunity maybe to take the lead there in the fourth. But so I think if Trade, I'm trying to answer your question long, but I think if there was a lag from A&M, I think we got over it, but it might have took us a half to get there. You know, the rest of that was just them making plays and us not being able to get them on the ground and misfitting some things. But no, I think we'll be okay. You know, we lost 4 last year. We're at 2 right now, and I'll talk to the team about that, you know, and see if we can't go beat Mississippi State.
Torture everybody's ears this week in practice with cowbells piped in, all that stuff.
Well, that's probably the plan. You know, we're only going to do it in team settings today. We're going to cut them some slack during 7-on-7, but team settings, we certainly will.
I think I got this right. Mississippi State's outscored opponents 52-7 in the first quarter. Well, what do you make of that? And I guess what kind of premium does that put on getting off to a good start?
Well, obviously they've been well coached and their game plan is against what they're seeing. And it seemed to me like, you know, they're well prepared on both sides of the ball, obviously, to give up 7 for the year in the first and score 52. But I think a lot of that too is their offensive system has been identical for, you know, 3 years in a row now. Their quarterback's been back for 3 years in a row now. And defensively, I know the coordinator's been there at least 2. And they've got some older players, you know, the guys that should be ready when it kicks off. So they've just done a great job of getting them prepared, I think.
Been in the league for 3 years. I'm thinking y'all didn't know each other before that, but just wondering, you know, being at meetings now for multiple years, how well have you got to know him? He's obviously kind of known for being a little different guy.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I knew him a little bit when we had gotten fired at Oklahoma. He came to Oklahoma as an assistant, and I met him there. Just briefly. Obviously I wasn't still employed, but met him there briefly. And then he's just a really quality, really good dude, really great guy. And obviously a great coach and a wonderful offensive mind as well. But I really like him. I respect him, and he's been good to me in the meetings and the conversations I've had with him.
And just looking at some of Mississippi State's passing numbers or the receiving numbers, they've got like 5 pass catchers right around the 20 catch mark. How do you kind of plan for that balance there?
Well, you just have to stay balanced. I mean, they've got, it's not like, you know, maybe us last year where, you know, guys knew where Burks was and you're going to throw him the football. They've got so many guys that they catch some, you know, one-on-one type balls. They catch them. I mean, they're really good at wideout. I believe that we'll trust him, you know, and he'll throw it, not in a crowd, but he'll throw the one-on-one ball and they'll come down with it. But they have so many really talented wideouts that can run and certainly can catch. And the thing they're doing a little bit more this year than what I've seen in the past is they're turning around and handing the ball off, and they've had great successes with that as well when they elect to run it.
Will Arnett, their defensive coordinator, are they doing more pressuring than they were last year? What's the evolution maybe of what he's done?
I think a little bit, depending on who they play, a little bit. But most of the time, not most of the time, a lot of teams pressure for the pass. In other words, they're trying to get to the quarterback. Mississippi State pressures to me to get you behind the sticks in the run. And then that just continues whenever you get in third down. But again, they're the most come at you team I've seen in a long time. And from a lot of different angles, from the middle, from the boundary, from the field. But I think they're a run pressure team is what I think. And they've had really good success with it.
On the 77-yard scramble, Jordan Dominic got kind of hung up. Are you send in a few plays to the conference office kind of guy?
We did. And now I'm not a little baby about it either. I mean, I know, what we're going to get back from the league as well. So if I don't think we can win, I don't send in 20. But if I don't think, and you're not really winning anyway, you're just getting yeah, you were right, or no, you were wrong, type deal. But we always send somewhere probably between 3 and 7 a week. We send in, and they're good enough to look at it, review it, and send us back a voiceover of what their thoughts were on it.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys.